It's time to get locked into the best Sooner recruiting and football news with Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up.
Hit the guys up on the Riverwind Casino call-in line at 405-329-9000 or text the show on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
Well, if you missed the big news of the day, and I guess it's not big news because it was somewhat foreseeable at the very least, Oklahoma redshirt junior wide receiver Jaden Gibson is no longer a member of the program. Brent Venables making that announcement officially on his SEC teleconference this morning. Now, Gibson, of course, signed with Oklahoma as a four-star recruit in the class of 2022. He flipped from Florida. Well, I shouldn't say flipped. He decommitted from Florida late in the cycle and committed essentially hand-in-hand with former four-star quarterback pledge Nick Evers, who only spent a season at Oklahoma before transferring to Wisconsin and then later to UConn. But Jaden Gibson was in the midst of year 4 at the University of Oklahoma. In technicality, he only played 2 seasons of football as a Sooner. Played sparingly as a true freshman in 2022, logged 1 catch for 12 yards, then played quite a bit more in 2023 as a sophomore, found his way into the rotation at wide receiver, caught 14 passes for 375 yards and 5 touchdowns, averaged almost 27 yards per catch. He was a big play machine that year for Oklahoma, but suffered a torn patellar tendon in August of 2024, getting ready for his junior season. He has not played a down of football since. He suffered a setback in April of this year as he was working back from that torn patellar tendon. And thus, the end has come for Jaden Gibson at the University of Oklahoma. He will have 2 years of eligibility at whatever his next destination may be. But, Grayson, we had talked about this. The reality that just with where Jaden Gibson was at physically, the odds were not great that he would ever play another down of football at the University of Oklahoma, because these days when you've been through as much as he has been through injury-wise, the program is probably going to be looking to replace you. They're not going to want to take a chance on rostering a guy that may or may not be even a shell of what he was before the injury. That's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah, no, it is how it goes. That's the business of it all, and, it sucks to see that it's come to this. My question at this point in time is, will he play football again? I mean, that's honestly what's going through my mind. Given the severity of the injuries and just the difficulty and the bumps in the road that he has had to endure when trying to come back through a pretty severe injury and in the first place, there's a mental side of this that you have to wonder about. There is the physical side too. Are you ever getting back to a place where you can play Power 4 football physically, and you have that leaping ability, and you have that speed and those intangibles that made you the player that you are? So, yeah, I mean, it's a rough go of it, and I'll say it again, and I know I said this at the top of the noon hour. But the timeline of this could not have been worse, because he had started to turn a new leaf from the man he was when he came in, or really the boy he was when he came into the program, and the man that he had developed into, and then the injuries started to come. So the whole thing sucks. You wish him the best. Hopefully the next chapter of his life's got something really cool, and I hope he can play football again, but the question now is, will he?
Yeah, and you can't help but consider that there's probably not going to be a super hot market for his services in the portal.
Not really.
That his options are going to be somewhat limited as a guy that will not have played football in almost 3 years by the time he suits up for whatever his next program may be. But we had talked about it previously, Grayson, not just specifically with regard to Jaden Gibson, but with regard to the wide receiver room more broadly, that there was going to be turnover this coming off season, and it wasn't hard to identify guys that were probably not going to return to the fold at Oklahoma in 2026. And Gibson was among those guys. There are others right now that are in the room whose names I don't have to name. You can pretty easily identify them. But there will be quite a bit of turnover in Oklahoma's wide receiver room. We were talking last hour about how there's probably going to be a good deal of turnover in the running back room. I tell you, I know this for a fact. The wheels are already in motion. There's going to be quite a bit of turnover in the wide receiver room. There will be a lot of change. Now, those are going to be the turnover is largely going to consist of guys that Oklahoma is rehoming, if you will. They're requesting that such and such a player go find a new home to continue their college football career. It's not going to be, Isaiah Satania has hit the transfer portal. No, Oklahoma is going to make it a priority this offseason to ensure that the guys they know they can count on remain with the program and that they have something to build around. But as we discussed last week, Grayson, there is going to be plenty of room on the back end of this roster for you to bring in a heavy class of wide receivers from the high school ranks. Mm-hmm. Whereas last year, Oklahoma took 5 transfer receivers and only 2 out of the high school ranks. I would be surprised if they took more than 1 transfer receiver. They may not take any, but I would be surprised if they took more than 1 transfer receiver, and it would not shock me at all if you saw 5, maybe even 6 wide receivers in Oklahoma's 2026 class.
Okay. So does this mean your receiver core is essentially going to be made up of kids? Is that what we're looking at? Because Burks is gone.
Yep.
Lewis is gone, if I'm correct, right? Or am I jumping the gun there?
Yes. Keontez Lewis cannot return. He and Burks are the 2 that graduate.
Yes. Now Satania is the one that could come back, but like you and I talked about last week, I think, Satania's generating some buzz from NFL scouts too, so there's a possibility that he could be out the door. So now you're looking at Elijah Thomas maybe, who still hasn't played an offensive snap. Same for Manny Choice, and a bunch of kids.
Yeah, well, keep in mind, in addition to Satania, among upperclassmen currently, you do have Giovanni Gibson.
Oh, that's right, yes.
You have Jermichael Carter, who's seen a decent amount of rotational action for Oklahoma at wideout.
Yeah.
And amongst that group of sophomores, Zion Kearney is a guy that they're excited about. Ivan Carrione has seen some run this year. Mm-hmm. They think Josiah Martin's going to be a good football player in the long run. I don't at all get the sense Josiah Martin is going to be one of the guys that is asked to find somewhere else at the end of season by Oklahoma. They like Josiah Martin and his long-term upside. So the pieces are there. You mentioned Elijah Thomas as well. The pieces are there on the top end when you're looking at Satania and Gibson and Carter. And that's a pretty solid trio to roll into next season with, assuming Satania doesn't play too well and get inclined to cash in his chips and go to the NFL draft. If you can get Gibson, Satania, and Carter back, and that's kind of your nucleus, then essentially what you're counting on is a couple of other guys taking the leap, whether that's Carrione or whether that's Thomas or Kearney or maybe, one of these true freshmen that Oklahoma has committed right now, or one of the guys that they have yet to land that they wind up signing is ready to go as a true freshman. I mean, I look at 2 of the wide receivers that they're chasing right now, Milan Paris and Jaden Petit. I think those are guys that could see the field as true freshmen and contribute meaningfully. And you never know, right? You never know how quickly it's going to translate, not only physically but cognitively for young guys when they get to the collegiate level. So you don't want to put the cart before the horse. We got to see and we got to feel out what Milan Paris and or Jaden Petit would look like if they showed up to Oklahoma as members of the 2026 class and started to practice with the team in spring. But I feel all right. I don't know that I feel great about the receiver room going into 2026, but I feel all right about it. My biggest question is, okay, who fills Deion Burks' shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to be that guy? And I think the answer might be staring you in the face. It might be Elijah Thomas. I think that's probably the most likely.
Can we talk about Elijah Thomas, by the way?
Yeah, let's do it.
And there's quite a few texts that are concerning the wide receiver room right now that we should get to. But when do you think this week or maybe next we start to see Elijah Thomas more on offense? Because I'm down to give him some run and see what he can bring at this point.
I'm down for it too, man. I don't know. If it didn't happen in the first half of the season, I don't know why it would happen in the second half of the season. I'm really not counting on seeing a whole heck of a lot of Elijah Thomas at wide receiver the rest of the way. He's been a special teams demon, and I'm sorry, not Venables, but Ben Arbuckle talked about that yesterday in his presser. But I don't know that you see a ton of Thomas catching passes the rest of the way, just because whatever didn't happen in the first half of the season will probably also not happen in the second half of the season, just with the way that the schedule lines up. Papa Boganowski on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line says, I need to see more of that sneaky athletic wide receiver Jacob Jordan. He's the last guy I've seen make a defender look stupid with the ball in his hands. Yeah, Jacob Jordan, we haven't seen a lot of him, have we? Has he caught a pass since the season opener against Illinois State? I don't know that he has. But Jacob Jordan, he is nothing if not sneaky athletic. A gym rat, you might say.
Is he a gym rat?
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he is. He's a college football player.
Uh-huh. Yeah, absolute gym rat. Jacob Jordan.
Love it.
Krabby Sooner says, if ET ain't seeing the field, then no freshmen next year are. Yeah, I mean, and there's validity to that, Krabby Sooner, but counterpoint, the circumstances may not be exactly the same. Because, for instance, I could look at Zion Reagans a year ago and be asking the question, well, if Zion Reagans could get on the field as a freshman, why can't Elijah Thomas? And we know the answer, right? The answer is because the room looks radically different this year than it did last year. Big Chris wants to know about redshirt potential for Thomas. He cannot redshirt. He has already played in too many games. He's played in every single game.
I was about to say, he's been on special teams every game.
Teams. Yes. I believe the only time we've seen him on the field with the offense would have been that last drive of the Temple game. So, and did he catch a pass? They throw a ball his way? I seem to recall him having the ball in his hands once and only once. Yes, he had one catch for 5 yards in that Temple game. He had a 5-yard catch. That's been it for Elijah Thomas. But as we dig into the wide receiver picture here, Grayson, and just kind of unpack what we're looking at moving forward, I mentioned it in passing, but I want to harp on this point. Oklahoma is planning to take a really heavy class of receivers. And they have 3 committed right now. Daniel Odom, Braden Allen, Zizi Okafuleze. They very well could take up to 3 more. And we talked about the newest offer yesterday. 4-star wideout Jahsiear Rogers out of Middletown, Delaware. This is a guy that I expect to OV to Oklahoma by the end of the fall. In fact, I was told they are making every effort to get Rogers locked in for an official visit at the Ole Miss game here in a couple weeks. So he could be on campus as soon as October 25th for OU. But they like Rogers a lot. They like Jaden Petit a lot. They like Milan Paris a lot. Oklahoma will, without reservation, say yes to any and all of those guys if they want to jump on board. No questions asked. There is no conversation to be had. If any one of those guys picks up the phone, calls the University of Oklahoma, and says, I'm in, the response will be, great, let's do it. So, at this point, and people are going to ask about Davian Gross, especially with the knowledge that Billy Napier could be fired at Florida before too much longer here. I'm not ruling it out, let me be clear. I'm not ruling out the possibility that things could get rekindled in a serious way between Oklahoma and Davian Gross. Here's what I know, though, in conversing with well-placed sources on the matter. OU actually likes Jahsier Rogers a little bit better than Davian Gross. Like, there's a preference there. and the preference is Jahsiear Rogers. Now, you look at the rankings, that might be surprising to some folks because Rivals, let's use the Rivals rankings. They're the only service that has Jahsiear Rogers ranked as a 4-star prospect. And it needs to be understood that with regard to this kid and where he's ranked and the evaluations on him, he has not done a ton of camps. He has not really put himself out there. He's a well-kept secret that Penn State discovered, I believe, when they were recruiting a big-time offensive tackle from the state of Delaware in the 2027 class, Leighton Von Brandt, that wound up committing to Penn State and then backed off that pledge with the firing of James Franklin. But Rogers is a pretty well-kept secret. Rivals has him as the number 195 overall player in the country and number 24 wide receiver. Those same rankings have Gross 54th overall and the number 7 wide receiver. So if you're looking at the rankings, you're thinking, oh, Davian Gross is the better player, right? Well, in Oklahoma's mind, there's a preference for Rogers and what he could bring to the offense dynamically over Gross. Now, obviously if a guy like Gross picks up the phone and says, hey, actually I want to come to OU, I don't think they're going to say no. But given how things went down with Gross's initial commitment and the reality that there really hasn't been any traction towards getting Gross back to campus this fall for a game day visit, I think it's understandable that the program would be focusing a little bit more heavily on Rogers right now, especially with the knowledge that there are people in the Switzer Center who are of the opinion Rogers is a better fit for Oklahoma than Gross is. And fit matters, too, in every sense, Grayson. Like, we're not just talking about on-field fit, we're talking about off-field fit. And I'm not by any means comparing Davian Gross to Devon Mitchell. But, for instance, if Oklahoma had made the decision to take Cooper Alexander over Devon Mitchell in the 2024 class, that staff would have been crucified on social media. Crucified. But look at what Cooper Alexander's doing right now compared to what Devon Mitchell's doing. It's not all about the rankings.
I mean, fit does matter, and I guess bodily discipline does too.
Yes. Yes, development matters. Character matters. All of the things matter. And that's why, for better or worse, you kind of just have to be willing to trust the folks in the front office at Oklahoma, at least until they give you concrete reason not to trust them. And people are going to say, well, Jaden Ott, that was a bad decision. That was a bad investment. And, okay, certainly, that's what it looks like. That's one guy. We need a few more data points than one guy before we make a judgment on the job that Jim Nagy and the brain trust in the Oklahoma front office is doing. 405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. What do you think? Let us know via the text line. Chime in. Air out your questions, comments, opinions, anything and everything you like. The show today brought to you by Dorsey Jones GMC out in El Reno. Dorsey Jones and GMC offer some of the most reliable trucks and SUVs on the road today. So if you're in the market for a new vehicle, head out to El Reno, and you can also take advantage of Dorsey Jones' fantastic service as well, including half-price oil changes on Saturdays. We appreciate Dorsey Jones for their partnership here on Locked In. More OU football and recruiting talk is on tap because, folks, that's all we do here. We'll hear from our sponsors. Be back in just a minute here on The Ref.
Sound off any time of day on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439. Knippelmeyer Chevrolet in Blanchard, USA.
When it comes to buying a home, you need a winning game plan. At Stride Bank, our mortgage team helps you get from kickoff to closing with competitive rates, local expertise, and personalized service. Whether it's your first home or your forever home, we'll be right there on the field with you. Learn more at stridebank.com. Stride Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Stride Bank on your team since 1913 with Oklahoma roots and nationwide reach.
Where do Oklahoma sports fans go to watch the big game? Gridiron Sports Bar at River Spirit Casino Resort in Tulsa. With multiple viewing screens and a huge LED wall, you'll never miss a play. Enjoy bar top gaming, Top Golf swing suites, delicious game day food and drinks, and a VIP lounge for top-tier players. Gridiron Sports Bar takes sports fans to another viewing level. Gridiron Sports Bar, Tulsa's fan favorite.
When you quit tobacco with nicotine patches, gum, or lozenges, you double your odds of success. So this month, we're giving you more for free. Get an 8-week supply when you sign up with the Oklahoma Tobacco Helpline. Call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. Text READY to 34191. Or visit okhelpline.com to double your odds of quitting tobacco with 8 weeks of free patches, gum, or lozenges all month long. A program of TSET.
This is Jake Aldridge, partner at Aldridge Teasdale. We know accidents happen when you least expect them, but if you're injured, your path to recovery and justice starts with the right attorney by your side. At Aldridge Teasdale, we understand that every injury is personal and that every story matters. You deserve an advocate who will fight for you. But don't wait. If you need medical assistance, you need to get it now, and we can help you with access to the best doctors in Oklahoma. Call Aldridge Teasdale today, 405-447-HURT. That's 405-447-4878.
Ready to be the talk of the tailgate, class party, or birthday celebration? Get your event catered by Chick-fil-A on 12th Avenue in Norman. From delicious sandwich trays, nugget trays, and drinks by the gallon, to all the essentials you need to feed a team on the go, we've got you covered. Your crew will love the Pretzel Cheddar Club, complete with a buttery, cross-cut pretzel bun and applewood smoked bacon, and beat the heat with a cherry berry Sprite tea or frosted lemonade. Call the 12th Avenue Chick-fil-A in Norman today at 405-310-3189 and eat more chicken.
Are pests invading your home? Call Avenge Pest Control now and get your initial pest control service at half price. Avenge Pest Control is a family-owned and operated company, proudly serving the entire Oklahoma City metro area, Enid, Ardmore, and the Durant-Texoma area. They take care of all of our pest control needs here at the Ref, and they offer free termite inspections and comprehensive services. With mice and rat season upon us, don't wait. Protect your home today. Get more info at AvengePestControl.com or call 405-693-2233. Avenge Pest Control.
One smile is great, but one smile in a community of smiles is so much better. Smile Train celebrates the cleft lip and palate community by empowering medical professionals in over 70 countries to perform essential cleft care in their local communities. Learn how Smile Train is helping the cleft lip and palate community at smiletrain.org/learn. Smile Train, changing the world one smile at a time.
Picks up one more block. Touchdown Tigers!
KREFSports.tv is your home for Norman High and Norman North High School football this season.
Got James! Touchdown T-Wolves!
This Friday, Norman hosts Moore and Norman North takes on Broken Arrow, with both games kicking off at 7 p.m.
And drop the curtain. Touchdown!
Touchdown Norman North! KREFSports.tv, the best high school streaming in Oklahoma.
It is the Ref, the Home of Sooner fans. Parker, Thune, Grayson, Singleton with you here on Locked In. 405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. And a good question to get us started on this segment from Chris in Knoxville. Any news on who OU is pursuing at quarterback for the 2027 cycle? So I was checking on this as recently as yesterday with sources around the program and was told we're in no hurry. We're doing our homework. There are a few guys that we're considering. But here's kind of been the big picture perspective all throughout the process here for Oklahoma since Peyton Houston landed on LSU last month, Grayson. The way that the Sooner staff and front office feels about this whole deal is we're Oklahoma. We would have liked to have gotten Peyton Houston. He was our guy. Yes, that's obvious. But with Peyton Houston out of the picture, we're not going to do this fast. We're going to do this right. And we can afford to be deliberate, I should say, with our evaluation process and crossing the T's, dotting the I's, making sure we're going after the right guy before we go full throttle after our next quarterback. And that's part of the reason, or I should say that is the reason, why you haven't seen Oklahoma make another offer in the 2027 class at quarterback yet.
Well, yeah, you don't have to rush this. And if there's any confidence that the fan base should have that Oklahoma could still go out and land a really good quarterback, just look at what happened in the 2026 class. Ben Arbuckle got on Bo Bentley and then turned him around and got him committed relatively fast. Like, they weren't on Bo Bentley like super early or anything like that with Arbuckle. So there is a little bit of a precedent for this, and no, you should not be worried right now in the 2027 class. And look, if you don't get a blue chipper in the 2027 class, if you can convince Michael Hawkins to come back and you've got Bo Bentley already locked down, you should be fine.
And to be clear, if you believe in Bo Bentley, if you believe that Bo Bentley can be the future face of Oklahoma football, there's not all that much that rides on the outcome of your quarterback recruiting in the 2027 class. The only way that really comes into play is if Bo Bentley turns out to be a flop. And okay, like, you have to be ready for that possibility. You do. Because who would have imagined that Jackson Arnold was going to be the catastrophic flop that he was at the University of Oklahoma? And okay, not all his fault, obviously. But who would have imagined that Jackson Arnold was going to have that type of career at OU? And that's why it was fortunate that you had Michael Hawkins willing to jump on board in the 2024 class, because if we can rewind to that class for a second, a big question that many signal callers in that class were asking was, why should I go to Oklahoma and sit behind Jackson Arnold? Michael Hawkins never asked that question.
No.
Michael Hawkins wanted to be at the University of Oklahoma and felt like he could win a quarterback battle against Jackson Arnold, which I guess in a sense he did. But, that creates a predicament as well, and that could be an inhibitor in your efforts to land a big-time quarterback in the 2027 cycle, is the reality that you got Bo Bentley committed in 2026. And Bo Bentley could very well be a 5-star when it's all said and done. He's not far off from that territory right now, Grayson. He is, get this, 23-0 in his high school career as a starting quarterback. He's got the Salina Bobcats well on track to take home a second straight 4A state title in the state of Texas. And, man, he just plays sparkling football every single week. Again, do you know for a fact that this is going to translate to the University of Oklahoma? No, you don't. But Bo Bentley is certainly giving you all of the right reasons to believe that it will.
Yeah, and, his senior tape looks great, by the way. Not just from what you've put out, but, you go on and you watch the first few games, and he looks good. He looks big. He looks spry, and he looks like the arm is great. And the leadership qualities are there. And, just seeing how he's interacted with recruits at camps and whatnot, he seems like a pretty charismatic guy that can galvanize a team around him. That I do not think was necessarily the case with Jackson Arnold, by the way. So there's that intangible to go along with it. But no, Bentley gives you the buffer that if the 2027 class doesn't go the way you want it to go, as long as he's good, you're good. Now, you're going to have to get one in the 2028 class. I think that's unquestionable. You're going to have to get one there. But at least for the 2027, you've got you a little bit of breathing room to work with. As it pertains to quarterback, as long as this offense just doesn't do like the Titanic and completely capsize this season, your quarterback situation should be good.
Blake from Owasso says, is OU for sure moving on from Houston, or are there still conversations? No, I know for a fact there have been continued conversations between OU and the people in Peyton Houston's camp. The lines haven't gone dead in that regard, but I have not gotten the sense that there is much traction towards a flip, whether short-term or long-term. He seems pretty solidly committed to LSU, and, if you go log into twitter.com and just track Peyton Houston's activity throughout the day, mind you, like today, October 15th, he's doing a ton of recruiting on behalf of the Louisiana State University Tigers. So, I don't get the sense that Peyton Houston's mind is changing anytime soon. Oklahoma will continue to maintain the dialogue, though, because obviously, what if Brian Kelly gets fired? What if Joe Sloan takes another job somewhere and there's a turnover on the offensive staff, things get shaken up, and this system really doesn't fit Houston ideally anymore? I mean, you can argue it doesn't fit him ideally right now, but you're going to keep it up, going to keep the conversation up just in case something like that occurs. But Oklahoma would be well advised to focus the primary bulk of their efforts elsewhere, and they will. Chapstick says, we can have offensive skill position transfers, but we must build the offensive trenches via recruiting. That's why this defense is so good. For the most part, our defensive trenches have been recruited, not transferred. To do this, we must find the correct system and staff quickly. We can't keep having mediocre linemen out of high school. Now, last year might be the exception. And, yeah, as we've discussed, Oklahoma has some really exciting young pieces on the offensive line. But I want to apply kind of that same line of thinking there to the quarterback room. Because, Grayson, a transfer quarterback is not out of the realm of possibility for Oklahoma in 2027, as opposed to just taking a high school guy. That's something that's being discussed as well. Do we even pursue anybody in 2027? Or do we believe strongly enough in Bo Bentley and also in the availability of big-time quarterbacks in the transfer portal that we just decide to forego a high school signee in the 2027 class? And no verdict has been reached there. It's a conversation point and nothing more. But one thing one thing you can set your watch to, is that every single winter there will be very talented quarterbacks in the transfer portal from the G5 ranks or the FCS ranks or even from the P4 ranks that haven't gotten the chance to play yet. Hello, Bo Pribula, right?
Yeah.
There will be those guys that are looking for a change of scenery and an opportunity to be the dude somewhere.
I mean, that's certainly an option. Now, here's the thing. You're playing a gamble with that because you know who the 2027 quarterbacks are coming out of high school. What you don't know is who's going to be available in the portal and how they'll translate to your system. So you're taking a little bit of a flyer there if that's the direction you want to go, but there should be enough availability. There should be enough supply for Oklahoma and all the other schools to meet the demand. And theoretically, too, if you're going to bring in a 2027 guy, I think you're going to bring in a dude who understands I'm going to have to compete with a Bo Bentley who's in his second year with the program as well. So you're also going to have to make sure that you're also narrowing yourself down is what I'm trying to say. Excuse me. You're narrowing yourself down to guys who are like, okay, do I want to be the unquestioned guy? I probably won't go there. So it'll be a guy who has to understand I have to beat somebody out.
Now, I do want to point this out as well. You're not just in a sense you're right, but you're not just limiting yourself to the pool of available transfer portal quarterbacks because you can make a guy available these days. And programs do.
That's
that's
a good point.
Doesn't really matter if he's in the portal or not. You like a guy, you can go get him. You can make that happen. By the way, have you seen this kid from Harvard?
Who?
His name is Jaden Craig. And let me tell you, obviously it doesn't look like Oklahoma's going to need a starting quarterback via the transfer portal this offseason, but boy, if they did, this would be the guy. This would be the guy that I would want. 6'3", 230, looks the part, and plays like it, man. I got to see what his updated stat line was as of last week.
Well, I've got it for you.
Yeah, as of last week, he had a 9-0 touchdown to interception ratio and a 76% completion percentage on the year.
So it looked like he had a really rough game this past week because that completion percentage is down to still 68.5, which is good. Just over 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, 1 pick. Not a whole lot on the ground, but looks like a pretty efficient thrower of the football. And also, get this too, he has not been sacked once this year.
Wow, imagine that. Offensive line play matters.
But keep this in mind too, Parker. Sometimes not every sack is created equal. I mean, sometimes sacks are on the quarterback too. So, yes, his offensive line has played good, but he's getting rid of the football, and he's getting rid of the football and not putting it in harm's way all that much.
You can find quarterbacks anywhere these days, folks, even in the Ivies.
And at least you know he's smart.
Yeah, I'm going to be really curious to see where he lands because he'll have a year of eligibility left when he gets in the portal, and he will get in the portal. I mean, he's a quarterback. He'll get in the portal at season's end, and he will make some P4 program very, very happy when they land their 2026 starter in that kid. So, I mean, this happens every year, right? Happens every single year. There's a whole new crop of transfer quarterbacks. And generally, every single class is chock full of guys that, if developed properly and surrounded with the right skill position talent and talent up front, can be high-level starters in the SEC. 405-651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Again, 405-651-3439. More of your texts, more OU football and recruiting talk on the other side. Keep it right here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
Do you eat, sleep, and breathe Sooner football? We do too. This is the Ref, home of Sooner fans.
For the professional, it's not enough to just possess knowledge. That's why at GMC, we seek to refine it, to wield its power, to redefine its boundaries, while pushing the limits. And we put this knowledge to the test in every GMC Sierra by engineering each one to outperform your expectations. So you know you're getting precision and durability when you need it most. And that's what makes the GMC Sierra the truck worth knowing. We are professional grade. See your Oklahoma GMC dealers.
At Armstrong Bank, your business isn't just business to us. It's personal. Our bankers are invested in your success, and we're ready to build a relationship that lasts. You deserve a strong financial partner by your side. Together, we can help make your business even stronger with products and services designed for your convenience. To learn more, visit a location near you or visit armstrong.bank. Armstrong Bank. Strength runs in our family. Member FDIC.
Hey, sports fans, you cheer on your kids on the field, now give them a chance to shine on stage. At the studio of the Sooner Theater, our school year performing art classes are open for ages 3 to adult. From musical theater to acting, jazz, tap, ballet, and hip-hop, and full-scale productions where your star can perform in the spotlight. Don't sit on the sidelines. Enroll now. Visit SoonerTheater.org or call 405-321-9600. The Sooner Theater, where every season is game day for the arts.
Would you like to play a more active role in your health? At Hightower Clinical, we believe all Oklahomans should have access to new potential treatment options through clinical trial participation. Our team wants to support you with the best care possible through clinical trials. No health insurance is required. Compensation is available for eligible study participants, and study care is provided at no cost.
Having the chance to go through a trial and find out if something works for them and makes their life easier, I would recommend them do it.
To learn more, scan this QR code and visit our website.
Feeling stuck in your current home? Now is the best time to make a move. Home Creations is making home ownership more affordable with low interest rate opportunities and special financing. Don't wait. Live like a champion today. Call Holly at 405-364-9999 to find your dream home.
364-9999 means Home Creations.
Your child is sick. With those 4 words, the innocence and joy of childhood disappears. But Starlight has taught us 4 other words that make all the difference. The power of play. Happy kids heal faster. That's why Starlight Children's Foundation delivers happiness through gaming, toy deliveries, and more to hospitals across the country. Learn more at starlight.org.
Hey y'all, I'm Blake Shelton. Being from Oklahoma, I know a thing or two about natural disasters. Tornadoes are common where I'm from and have affected my life and the lives of people I care about. No matter where you live, be aware of the dangers in your area and have a plan. You can create an emergency kit, come up with an evacuation plan, and know where to seek shelter. You never know when a disaster may hit. These simple steps can help save a life. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
When you struggle with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, you get used to not feeling 100%. I thought that was how it had to be. Until I discovered the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. They told me about new medications that weren't around back when I was diagnosed. They helped me find a specialist who gave me a new treatment plan. I'm feeling better than I ever thought I could. Don't settle for not feeling your best. Take action today to take care of yourself. Spill your guts. Learn more at spillyourguts.org.
It's locked in here on the Ref final segment. Before we turn things over to Tyler McComas and Travis Davidson. Look
hey,
at
you
that.
got it right this time.
I did it right for the second week in a row. I'm on a roll. Travis, of course, in for Ted on Wednesdays during the season, which I often forget because, well, I often forget which day of the week it is. But
amen to that.
Those two coming up at the top of the hour. 3 more hours of OU sports talk on the way once we are through, but we ain't through yet. Now, there are many listeners that have inquired over the last couple of hours on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line as to whether Oklahoma is going to pursue Danny Beal, 4-star defensive lineman from Cherry Valley, Arkansas, that today announced in a very unsurprising move that he is decommitting from Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Will Oklahoma pursue Danny Beal? I haven't really gotten that sense. I know they feel really, really good about the 3 defensive tackles that they currently have committed in Brian Harris, Tank Carrington, and why am I drawing a blank on the third one? Help me here, Grayson.
I'm
an idiot. I'm officially an idiot. I'm losing it. I've gone Steely mode. Brian Harris, Tank Carrington, and T-Ron Richardson from Virginia.
The most recent one.
Yes, okay. T-Ron Richardson from the state of Virginia. That's the 3rd defensive tackle commit for Oklahoma in this cycle.
Hey, man, it happens to all of us.
Oh, boy. Happens lately more often than I would like it to. I might lose it early, folks. I might lose it early. But they have those 3 committed. They feel great about those 3. Feel like all 3 can be NFL bodies in the long run. And here's the reality of the situation, Grayson. I think at this point, if you're looking to add an additional defensive tackle, you're probably looking to the portal. Because you're losing Dominic Williams and Grayson Halton, 2 keystone members of that defensive tackle rotation at season's end. And you just – I don't know that you can expect that Trent Wilson and Marcus Strong are ready to jump in and fill the void that those 2 leave behind. You'd like for that to be the case, obviously, and there's reason to suspect that it could be the case, but you don't want to count on it. I think Oklahoma would be well advised to take a transfer portal defensive tackle this offseason, especially because we still have yet to confirm the existence of Ricky Lolohea. He is the invisible man. But Trent Wilson, Marcus Strong, I mean, those are 2 guys that Strong has played in the rotation a little bit already. Wilson was a top 100 signee for Oklahoma in the 2025 recruiting class, so he's a true freshman. The future looks to be bright for both of those guys. They've got good football ahead of them at the University of Oklahoma. Do they have elite football ahead of them? Well, we don't know. We simply don't know. So if you can go land another guy, and it doesn't have to be as splashy of an addition as Dominic Williams was last April when Oklahoma went and landed him over Missouri and LSU and Texas. But if you can go add another experienced, established power forward dude in the defensive trenches, I think that's probably preferable in my mind right now to going and picking up another high school defensive tackle.
Yeah, no, agreed. And my first thought of that when the question came in was you don't need Danny Beal. Especially with the fact that you feel good with what you got. Danny Beal's a really good player. That's nothing to take away from him. But Oklahoma, in terms of the high school recruiting ranks, you're sitting pretty.
Squirrel from Norman says, man, I must have missed something. Why so sure John Mateer is heading to the NFL? In my opinion, he will be back in Norman next season. Yeah, no, and I said that when we brought up Jaden Craig last segment. I don't think Oklahoma's going to need a portal quarterback this offseason. Now, you never say never in college football because there's more roster turnover at every level than there has ever been in the history of the sport. But John Mateer, his draft stock took a hit, a pretty substantial hit with that performance against Texas and just with the thumb surgery because, I mean, that's going to create apprehensions that weren't there before in the minds of NFL front office execs. And so John Mateer needs to rehabilitate his draft stock a little bit, and regardless of where his draft stock winds up landing at season's end, I think there's a very strong chance that he's back at Oklahoma next year. Now, if he's not, then the question becomes, do you feel as though Michael Hawkins is the guy? Like, and I don't know that the OU staff has reached a verdict there yet. Like, I don't know. Would they feel completely comfortable just handing the reins in totality to Michael Hawkins, trusting him to be the guy in 2026 and beyond? Possibly. Would they want to bring in a guy who can compete for the starting job? Perhaps. Would they want to go a step further and bring in a guy that would be the starter and essentially recruit over Hawkins? Now, at that point, I think you lose Hawkins. But I don't know that the program has planned for life after John Mateer yet because, well, they really don't have to. It's only mid-October. We're halfway through the regular season. And I know there is a hope right now within the walls of the Switzer Center that they can talk John Mateer into coming back for a second season as Oklahoma's starting quarterback.
Well, and keep this in mind, too. So I mentioned in the 1 o'clock hour that there was a mid-season mock draft put out by ESPN. John Mateer was not in the first round in that mock draft. So keep that in mind. Hey, on the YouTube chat, this was an interesting question, or actually an interesting thing here. Boomer Gooner, which interesting name.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that's a choice. And now I just lost it. Here we go. Why are we talking about defense? The offense is the side that's killing us. He also asked, why can't our O-line stay healthy? There are plenty of developable pieces that suggest we could form an elite unit.
I mean, why can't the offensive line stay healthy? I think it's a combination of a lot of things, but, you know, it's due in no small part to just bad luck, honestly. Like, you know, and how else do you chalk it up when you look at the receiver room in 2024? It's just bad luck. There was no common denominator amongst the injuries that those guys succumbed to other than the fact that they were injuries, right? It's not like Emmett Jones was walking around with a sledgehammer hitting dudes' knees in the locker room. You couldn't – it wasn't – there wasn't anything that would suggest, okay, there's a systemic issue here with the practice regimen or strength and conditioning or what have you. And so I think – and look, again, I think it's a combination of a lot of things with this offensive line, but it is due in no small part to just bad luck. So you're right, though. I mean – we should be talking about the offense and the overhaul that could take place there in the offseason much more than we're talking about the defense, where it feels like there's going to be a lot of continuity, and there already is a lot of continuity. It does feel, though, like the overall picture at the skill positions could be a lot different come 2026. And I think the guys at the top of the food chain in the receiver room are going to be familiar faces. You know, Isaiah Satania, Giovanni Gibson, Jermichael Carter, etc. Those guys we already talked about. But the room as a whole, I would expect you're looking at 6-7 new guys, new scholarship receivers in totality, which is just about half your room at that point. And things could look radically different in the backfield because I don't think it's a guarantee that anybody outside of Torrey Blaylock is back next year in an Oklahoma uniform.
Mm-hmm. You know, there's a prevailing theme on the text line, and you mentioned turning the program over to Michael Hawkins at some point. There's a lot of people, and there's too many texts coming in on the same thing, so I'm just going to summarize it.
Okay.
But there's a lot of people that think the staff doesn't trust Michael Hawkins because they rushed Matier back, and they started him when he hadn't practiced in 3 weeks. To that, you would say what?
To that, I would say, again, we've talked about this from a million different angles, both before and after the Red River Shootout. If Matier was available, you had to start Matier. And Matier's mission from the time that he underwent the surgery was to be available for the Texas game. He wanted that game. You could tell how badly he wanted it, both in the way that he addressed and I guess navigated his rehab leading up to the game, and then, you know, just being down there on the field, seeing the way that John Matier operated that day, on a day where obviously it did not go according to plan for him. But, man, that was a game he so badly wanted to win. Man, he was so when he was walking out of the locker room at halftime on Saturday, you know, all that traffic kind of comes through the tunnel at the Cotton Bowl because that's the only path to the field. So anybody that's coming onto or going off of the field, you know, you got to go through the same tunnel. So there's a lot of foot traffic, and for the media, for both teams, for the bands, for the cheerleaders, etc. Like, everybody kind of congregates in that tunnel during halftime. And so when John Matier walked out of the locker room, he walked right by me. And, you know, I'm within earshot of him for probably 15, 20 seconds. And he's got his eyes down on the ground. He's, like, in his zone, talking to himself. And the thing he's saying over and over again is, just work, just work, just work, just work. That's what he kept saying. And so, like, he wanted it as bad as anybody on Saturday. And when a guy wants it that bad and he's your starting quarterback and he's undergone, like, checked all the requisite boxes in rehab, and he's made it clear from the outset that he has every intention of playing in the Texas game, and he's played good enough football over the first 4 games of the season that you have every reason to believe he gives you the best chance to win, you have to start the guy. You have to start the guy. It has nothing to do with level of trust in Michael Hawkins. It has everything to do with the fact that John Matier, in every way, earned the right to be the guy to walk out there with the starting 11 for Oklahoma on Saturday. And he didn't play well. And that happens. And there's nothing you can do. Sooner in Springtown says, you heard it here first. If Hawkins is the starter next year, Oklahoma will be a 500 team. Maybe, Sooner in Springtown.
Let's say that's...
Maybe.
That's quite dark.
I would just... And I'm not going to try to argue with you. Not going to try to paint a rosier outlook because I don't know what the future holds for Hawkins individually or for Oklahoma as a team. Only time will tell. But the things that everybody knocked Hawkins on after the Kent State game were the same things that were the popular knocks on Matier coming into the year. Sidearm throw, lack of accuracy, happy feet. And John Matier is, I don't think this has changed in the aftermath of the Texas game, the most beloved man associated with the OU football program right now amongst the fan base. And moreover, John Matier hardly touched a college football field until his 3rd year at Washington State. Michael Hawkins already has 5 starts under his belt as a true sophomore. He's probably at this point going to be able to preserve a redshirt, so he will be a redshirt sophomore next year with 3 years of eligibility still ahead of him. And quarterbacks do get better quarterbacks do improve. They do sharpen all aspects of their game. And they do become more cerebral, and they do become better decision makers. This happens. It doesn't happen for everybody, but heck, try convincing anybody in the year 2021 when Jaden Daniels was at Arizona State that guy was going to win a Heisman Trophy 2 years later for LSU. Development matters. And that's where you have to trust coaching. And I think Ben Arbuckle is the type of guy that can develop Michael Hawkins. All right, folks. It's a wrap for today's installment of Locked In. Thanks for hanging with us over the last hour. It's been fun. It always is. On the other side, it's Tyler McComas and it's Travis Davidson taking you all the way home on this Wednesday afternoon. The Rush comes your way at the top of the 3 o'clock hour. For Grayson Singleton, I'm Parker Thune. We'll do it all again tomorrow, same time, same place here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans.